All right, how's it going? So today we'll be talking about the increasingly unsatisfaction that I had moving back home. And of course, I'll tell you why. We will be talking about the difficulties of managing a faceless YouTube channel, which it kind of feels worse than this normal one. And we'll also be talking about relationships in general. So let's start with the increasingly exponentially unsatisfaction of coming back home. Just so you guys can have a little bit of context. By the way, I'm using headphones right now. This is just because I want to be able to shut off any sounds that are outside. And this is related pretty much to what I feel about this neighborhood. I don't know if you guys can hear it. It is a completely loud neighborhood. I do have sounds coming out of nowhere all the damn time. Literally all the damn time. There's not a single moment. I lie. There may be a small patch of silence in between 2 a.m. until 4 a.m., but that is it throughout the entire day. You will have people making noise from 4 a.m. all the way to 2 a.m. And that will be your dogs barking. That could be the neighbor doing some renovations in their house. This could be another neighbor playing extremely loud music, or this could be people screaming on the street. This could be children playing loud motorcycles. And for me, who lived in a small town, in a small city for the past 10 years, it is increasingly bothering because I was not used to have so many sounds for so long throughout 22 hours of a day. And that fucking sucks. So not only that, things have been quite not as nice as I portrayed in my head. I have this problem. I would say I very often get into this mentality that I become overly optimistic of. I think that what I'm living at this very moment is shit. So therefore, I will find a way to improve my situation somehow. That may be for better or for worse, because everything is an exchange. You don't necessarily get everything, always at a profit. You always got to lose something to gain something. And I always find a way to change my life somehow. And then I do so. And then when I finally get it, it turns out to be nothing that I actually envisioned and nothing that I actually was hoping for. And it feels like shit. And it feels like everything is just completely fucking dumb, which is the case right now. I mean, I can't 100% complain about it because I know for a fact that somehow I am privileged to have the help of my mother, but I feel like by coming back home and by being here, I am actually being more taken care of and more babied than I should. And therefore, by being babied by my mother more than I should, I will more likely feel like either a burden or either entitled or either anything you can fill in the blank into this situation, right? And my anxiety, because right now, even after 3 years, 2 years, because I lost my mind in 2024. At the end of 2023 until 2024, I have lost my mind there. And for about 2 years being outside of the working market, I feel it is just taking much longer. Because right now, being in Brazil, I could, yes, go out and get some work. but I could not do high level work. I would only be able to do, you know, low paying starter jobs because they require, in order to do a high level job, they require you to do we have something that we call a workman's book. So it's like you keep all of your work history into that book. And then from there, other employers can look at it and be like, oh, so you had experience in this place for this long, this much of a time, you know, so it's not really electronic, it's paper tracks. And that fucking sucks, you know? There's no way around it. There is no line. Otherwise, you can work into the informal kind of line, which could be, you know, the entrepreneurship. Can be selling candy at the street, and God knows. But if you don't work for a employer, then you are autonomous. And then by being autonomous, you don't necessarily have a way to show off your skills, if you know what I mean. Anyways, so this is the chapter of my unsatisfaction of coming back home to Rio de Janeiro. I don't even get so mad about lowering the standards because things in Brazil are not as advanced or improved for myself who loves electronics and all of that shit. It is very, very much slower in pace. But again, it is what it is. But I was convinced that things would get better once I got here, and they don't necessarily became better. But that was because I have listened to people and let them stir me into a direction. So I ended up coming back home, but not always bad because we will go back there. So anyways, by being back home, so that's where we get into our new chapter. I was getting myself into the fact that, number one, I don't know if you guys remember, I used to play tarot cards, and I was actually starting a community on TikTok and even on YouTube as well. I used to do lives, and it used to be pretty good. I got a few clients here and there. I was actually starting to make a couple $100 at the beginning of the year. And, you know, by being mad and then by coming down here, I thought that I was going to be able to still do the very same thing. But then you can't really throw tarot cards on a extremely noisy environment where dogs are barking, your neighbor's screaming at the top of their lungs, and you got the neighbor playing music loud at the very highest volume, and the children are running all over the place, and then a football team scores and somebody thinks that they need to start making all sorts of noises. So I can say for a fact that, yes, Brazilians are fucking loud as hell. Motherfuckers. But anyways, with that said, I decided to start studying how to make a faceless channel. And let me tell you a little bit of what it's like managing a faceless channel. So I did find this course about, you know, faceless YouTube channels, and I started watching it. It was like a course from a folder that I have of a multitude of courses that I have been watching lately. Just trying to occupy my time studying and whatnot. And I think I did start like maybe a month and a half or maybe a month ago. And it was all good, all nice and dandy, but it feels like there's way much more information out there. There's a whole lot of noise on how you do that. Again, my mind went thinking that it was going to be way easier, way faster to simply go ahead and start this. It's going to be so much easier. You can just put out anything. And if you think about it, there are plenty of YouTube channels that are literally just spewing trash out there, just literally AI slop, as everybody likes to call AI slop. But then after watching the course, then you gotta look into on which niche you're gonna pick. So you start spending days on how to pick a niche, and you start spending hours researching on how to validate that niche. And then after that, you gotta validate if the title is good, because apparently you need to start by the title and the thumbnail. Those needs to be 100% set in stone before you actually start the script. And that is a rule that a lot of YouTubers out there say it, but we don't necessarily have we don't take that seriously, but it actually does work from my experience. By the way, I did not think about the title and the thumbnail before starting this video. I'm just recording for recording. I'm just recording this just so I can watch it later and I can see how much I have progressed, because sometimes I like looking back, and that's an awful feature of mine, looking back, but it is what it is. I like to see how much I've progressed throughout the times. But back to the faceless channel bullshit. I had spent an entire month studying this, and then I finally got to the point where I needed to start doing the channel. So the guy recommends you to have at least 5 channels, and you can either do all the same niche or all different niches. But I will tell you right away, if you want to start a faceless channel and you want to have multiple channels, just do it for the very same niche. And I'm saying that throughout an operational standpoint. And why is that? Because from what I've gathered is that I did try to do one for finance, one for ancient humans, and yeah, I had 2 at the moment. And then I do have these other 2 channels that are like this one here, this personal brand, and then I have another one, tarot. I was going to convert it into like a relationship, because that's pretty much what rolls in there. With AI slop, just don't be a bitch about AI slop, because even AI slop takes time, and I'll tell you why. So yeah, just work in the very same niche, because then you're gonna start getting primed for that kind of subject. You're gonna get good at that specific subject, and you start listening to the script, the narration, and you're like, yeah, this actually sounds good. This actually doesn't sound so repetitive. This actually makes sense. And then when you do through different niches, you don't really get that. And it is much harder for you actually to find sources or to validate your sources. So if you ever decide to start a faceless channel or multiple faceless channels, just do like a network of the same stuff. Just at the beginning, just until you get used to, until you start making some money. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Since I had started with 2 different niches, I have not made any money so far, and I'm still fucked. I don't have 1 fucking cent in my pocket, new cent in my pocket, and that sucks. And, but yeah, you will start learning better about these subjects. And another reason where I found a whole lot of friction is that when you have to create a faceless channel, like let's make a straight comparison. I'm right here in front of the camera just saying whatever is coming out of my mind about a certain subject that I have previously thought about at the very beginning. and it's already recording. The only thing I'll really have to do is go out to the computer, transfer from this camera to the computer, and it's all good and it's all done. The only thing I really have to do if I want to is cut off the silences and repackage and upload it. On a faceless channel, things becomes overly, completely modularized. You have to go to Chat GPT or, or Claude or whatever, and you got to find out what is the best one. And sometimes, since we are in 2026, we don't have high limits as we did have before when AI was at a starting phase. So you got to go with what you got. I thankfully have a computer where I can run local models, but then that does not necessarily mean that the local models will work perfectly. And working with AI there's a lot of trial and error. And then you find a script over here, and then you find a tutorial over there, and then you find a way to do things this way, and then later you find out how to do things another way, and there's more testing, and there's more trying, and there's more error, and at the end you don't get anything done. And that's how it goes, okay? Unfortunately, unless you have already enough money to pay somebody else to get that started for you. I apologize. But if you do have money, end of the story here, okay? If you do have the money to pay somebody else to make those videos for you, those faceless videos for you, pay somebody to do so. Because doing it at the house is complete shit. It takes about maybe, let's say you make a 20-minute video, and let's say your computer creates that narration within 1x. So you got at least 20 minutes over there. And then, let's say you want to create a script. A script will take you maybe another 5 to 10 minutes. So you already got half an hour in there. And then in my case, I have developed an entire workflow where I also did make my images, and they're all computer generated. It's like a slideshow. At first, they were shit because they did not really belong to each other. But then I found a way to make like a storyline, and it kind of looks cool. But at the end of the day, if you put every single slideshow at 5 seconds, if you got a 20-minute video, it's going to take you a whole hour just to produce those images. And then you got to put those images together, and you got to listen to the entire audio again. Anyways, it's going to take you roughly about, at the bare minimum, 3 fucking hours, from 3 to 5 hours. And that is if you can stay in focus to create a single fucking video, when in all reality, I could just literally just be recording this at minute number 22 right now and just be done with it. While I could also be improving my talking on camera, my communication skills while I'm here. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to you. Anyways. So yeah, I don't know if I want to keep doing that. I have gotten, of course, more followers than not. Like I got 35 followers, but for the amount of videos that I made, I don't think I want to keep doing this anymore. I need money. I wish I could fucking smoke cigarettes and have a beer, but I don't have money for that. I don't got money to survive. Actually, my mom is helping me survive. She's babying me, and I don't like that because I feel like I should have been someplace else. And the fact that being under her wing just makes me more lazy and entitled. Anyways. Ugh. And anyways, we just go back to the last chapter that I was going to talk about, relationships and also religion. Relationships are fucked. And I'll tie relationships, religion, and mental health all together if we want to get all tied up into this. As some of you guys know, I am a widower, and my partner passed away 5 years ago. He was actually buried in July 5 years ago, and ever since my life has turned to shits. And there are things that people don't know how it can be dating a widower is that you will always be compared to the person who is gone. My husband wasn't by any means any saint, or he was not 100% like a great person. Oh my god. But when he was sober, he was a great person. So I very often seem to attract people who are either very drug induced people or they're fucking alcoholics, or they always use some sort of substance abuse to escape reality. And while I give these people some sort of kudos, because escaping reality, whichever way you decide how to escape reality, it does have a cost. That is a monetary cost. I used to live with someone who used to buy 10 fucking bottles of wine throughout the weekends. And that was 10 bottles of wine to be consumed inside a house. That is not without counting the alcohol that was purchased outside at restaurants. So we could pretty much think about 12 bottles of wine throughout an entire weekend. And mind you, I don't drink a whole lot because my husband was an alcoholic. And I have learned that once you live with an alcoholic, especially someone who can get violent while they are alcoholics, is that you need to stay sober to defend yourself. Because if you do get at the very same level of drunkenness as theirs, they will use your level of drunkenness against you. So there will never be somebody who's right or wrong. There will always be, I've done this because you were drunk. And that really happens, even if they love you. Even when they're sober, they're a completely different person. And that happens more often than you think. Both people who I lived with became completely different people. Both alcoholics I shared time with, I can say. They become a completely different person. And it's like when they go back to zero, it's like nothing happened. The only thing you can smell is the alcohol breath, or maybe how they smell at the end of the day. And that's why relationship sucks, man. I have grown to the point where I would much rather be alone than having to depend on somebody else. It just fucking almost brings me anxiety thinking about being with somebody else. And also, I feel like by coming back to my mother's house, since my husband was my anchor back in the United States, and after he passed, I kind of, went completely off the rails. I have held myself onto my mother. So my mother has become my anchor. And because of her, I hold myself on doing plenty of stupid shit that I could be doing, just for the fact that I know that my husband died from overdose, and I had to watch his mother go through all of that fucking bullshit. And I just do not want my mother to go through the very same thing. And that is why, sorry, I had a little moment going on over there. So that is why, by being with my mother, not only she's my anchor, but by being my anchor, she holds me back in so much of my potential. And I really wanted this thing that I do right now, all the research, all the AI, and being able to speak English and do many things that I was luckily fortunate able to learn and do and own compared to the average people around me that they don't have. That is not really part of their reality. I just wanted to be able to make this work and just be good at it and just not necessarily spend 3 hours one way inside a bus just so I could get, barely above minimum wage being a service worker, let's say in the hotel industry, because that's most likely what I would be able to do, at least as a starter, because I don't live anywhere nearby the tourist part of the city. I'm at least an hour and a half away easily from the beginning of the tourist part of the city. So yeah, guys. And I don't know if I say this on this video or if it was in another one. Every time in order to get something, you gotta lose something. You can't really have it all. That's the reality. You can't really have it all. You're always gonna lose something in order to win something. In my case, I was depressed in 2024 to the beginning of 2025. I had the opportunity to go back to the United States and start a life with somebody else again, where I thought that things would be completely, easy. And as soon as I got there, I started seeing all sorts of little things and behaviors. And I am a very good detective. I'm going to say I'm a good detective. And not much later, as I got there, I got to find out things that were happening. And those things made me very, very upset because I did again left my family behind for that person. And just so months down the road, I could hear from their mouths that they were not fully committed to me, even though a continent away for that son of a bitch. And there was plenty of, instances of betrayal. Of course, they never said that it really happened, but if they can lie about anything, why should I trust them anyways? So I left that person because there was this constant disregarding, this constant feeling that I was not their equal and I was simply being their shadow. And I would much rather be my mother's shadow and take care of her because she's, much older and she is actually alone. She does have her friends and so, but you know what I mean? But then by coming back home, I don't have as many of the material things that I used to have because you're living in a material world and I'm a material girl. And, but at least I got my mom and I got the anxiety that if one day, and that will happen naturally, the most natural way we would think, she will leave me also, like my husband did, and I will be somehow left behind. And that's the biggest anxiety that goes through my head. Is that sense of safety that will be swept away from your feet all over again. Anyways, I better start doing something else instead of just giving you guys more of my grief for this pity party. But let's just close it all, shall we? So today we were talking about a very noisy neighborhood, a change of plans on starting a faceless channel, and relationships in the sense of safety. I did not talk about religion, but religion is also very complicated to the fact that I had spent the last couple years holding myself from religion, and I think it's finally time for me to stop thinking about it and stop pushing this dopamine cycle, because I'm starting to think that religion is also a dopamine cycle where you're constantly hoping and waiting for something divine to fall from the sky so life can get better. You know what I mean? So yeah, always hope for the worst. Things are not always easy as they seem. They can be very granular and way more difficult. And also, people suck, and you should not rely your safety on others. You should rely your safety always on yourself. All right. So I hope this message served you somehow. And please let me know down in the comments if you'd like me to talk about anything else. And we'll discuss about it. All right. Thanks so much for watching this video until the end. Oh my God, it's almost like 40 minutes, I think. And I really, again, thank you for being here. And I will see you in the next one. Peace, peace. Bye bye.